There we go. We are now recording. Good evening, everybody, and very warm welcome to the Author Live. We have got Nadia and Ruth O'Leary in the room with us, both members of Writers Inc. For those of you who may be watching from afar or watching back, both been members for a good while. I'm going to talk to them about that in a second, and I'm going to talk to them about their books, which are very different. But I think it's really interesting to bring two completely different writers together just to show you the breadth, I suppose, of the group and what everybody's working on. Maria is up there in the top corner, but she is going to be you can probably only see me actually because I'm going to have this on gallery view or speaker view later.
Yeah.
Anyway, Maria is here, and so she's going to be doing questions later. And guys, I am going to be opening the chat and endeavouring to read the chat. As Maria says, I am in charge of the buttons, so anything could happen. And also doing the doorbell, so I'll keep an eye on that and hopefully not lock anybody out. So, ladies, we've started recording. We're all good to go. Oh, somebody at the door. There we go. Sorry, nobody else can hit the doorbell except me, of course. Um, we're all good. Maria's gone. Excellent. Good. We're sorted. So hopefully we should be all fine. Just to show you guys the two books. Ruth's The Last Weekend of Him, women's fiction with a dark edge. And Nadia's is a beautiful poetry book with her artwork and own poetry in it as well. So complete contrast there. So what I thought we'd do, I thought we'd start with Nadia because we've heard well, actually Ruth's on these before. We haven't heard from you before. So tell us a little bit about this. When I do meetings, I always say to people like, "Who are you and where'd you come from?" It feels like that game show, you know. I can't remember who used to say that.
Blind date.
Yeah, who are you? Is that what? Yeah, I'd have to get the phrasing right. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about you, Nadia, and the build-up, because this is actually your second collection, isn't it? So do tell us a little bit about who you are, writing the poetry, and how we arrived at this point.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I'm a huge fan of both of yours, and so it's really an honor to do this and to talk about something very precious to me. So I basically grew up in Dublin. I was born in Dublin. My father is from Trinidad and Tobago, which is where I get the Ramatar part of my name. My mother's from Bray, just for a bit of balance there. Moved. My family moved to America when I was 17, and I went to university there. I ended up working in film, television, and that was my dog. I knew she was going to do this if I
That's
let
okay. Don't worry.
her.
Animals are
I
great.
know. She's always making herself part of
Yeah.
the show. So anyway, so I was very fortunate. I went to the same school, secondary school as W.B. Yeats, and I had a very wonderful English teacher who really made poetry feel very much alive, much more than just, for an exam or anything like that. And I'm still in touch with him. And in fact, there's a poem about him in my first anthology about the funeral of his wife. But I would think I was very fortunate in that I was there at the right moment, in the right place at the right time. And I used to do poetries at the feshes where you would get up and read a poem and then you get a little award, And so, I mean, it was a perfect storm. And then I had a lovely art teacher who really believed in me. But then I had an Indian father, and my Indian father said, "None of this. You will not study literature. You will not study art. You have to do something practical." And so I ended up doing journalism because that was the only thing he and I could agree on. It was like, well, that'll lead to some kind of job, but and I had to have a business minor. That was his other condition, was that I had to have a business minor. So anyway, so I ended up working in really, I've been working in some form of writing my whole life, whether that's journalism or whether that's broadcasting. I worked in radio and television for a while. And then I used to do these long news story, like 3, 4, 5,000 words, investigative reporting stories. And I'd almost get murdered a lot of the time. And so I ended up going, I think I'm going to switch over to documentary because no one reads anymore.
And it's
Uh,
safer.
I know, safer, it's safer. So anyway, I ended up going into film and learning how to uh, do film, and then had children, and then working in film and television was just, I wrote an article called "You Can Breastfeed by Email and Other Lies from the American Workplace." It was just so hard to be a mother and to be out on location or to do anything like that. So it kind of killed all that. And then I really just settled into the writing part, went back to university, got a PhD, did it in film. And then I ended up being a film professor in America for 18 years. And yeah, so then I ended up working on a bunch of different things because, you have summers and weekends and whatever. And then I moved back to Ireland about 7 years ago during the first Trump regime. So I've been back for almost 8 years and have was very fortunate to find the group. And I don't even remember how. I think I read an article, Vanessa, with you in it, and then I looked it up, and then I joined.
We
And
found it.
I remember saying to my best friend, you know, I'm thinking about joining this writing group, and but it's like I think it was however much it was a month, and she was like, "Are you mad? Why would you not invest in yourself? You have to do this." And I think it was just so great. So at the moment, I am working in communications and global health plans, and I work on really depressing things like counter human trafficking, and I work on things like maternal death in sub-Saharan Africa, which is higher than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
So, and then I also was commissioned to write a full-length film, which I'm working on at the moment. And so the poetry and the art is just really self-indulgent. Like I just love doing it and I've really enjoyed it. And people were ridiculous and I sold 1,200 poetry books the first time. So I said,
Fantastic.
I'll do it again. And
Yeah.
but this time with this one, I decided I would marble the paper. So I did this old uh, Turkish form of marbling paper. And so I marbled the paper and then I cut it out and I collaged it into images. So I wrote the poems first, then I collaged the paper and then gave it over to a graphic designer who put it together.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this time I did an audiobook, which I didn't do last time.
It's good. It's beautiful. It's beautifully put together. Really is lovely, and and everything. I think I highly recommend guys buying it because there's something for everybody in there. This one's about love, and it's called Radical Notions of Love, and there's all the different sections deal with love. It's like self-love as well as lots of other things. You
Yeah,
can see completely why writing is that sort of therapeutic thing for you when you're working at that level. Um, I think it's the valve, isn't it?
it is. And oddly enough, my brain seems to go, oh, that's awful. I feel so bad. Oh, I'll write a poem about it. Or, oh, that
Well,
makes me so happy. Oh, I think I'll write.
yeah.
And sometimes it's like I feel like almost the poems just get arrive to me, and I'm like, oh, smitten like a fuzzy kitten. Okay, hold on. I just looking for a receipt or something, or I'm texting myself or something because I'm like, oh, I need to write that down before I forget. But I do think it's a testimony to writing what you love to read.
Mm.
And I do think that they always say that, create the book you would love
Yeah.
you know, and I've probably taken that a little too far, but I do think there's something in that, nobody really, I mean, people say all the time, oh, people don't buy poetry books and people don't da 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 and people don't da 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 da. And oh, thank you, Maria. She's posting the link there. But I do think it's a labor of love. And like you said, in that radical notions of love, there's poems about loss, there's poems about grief, there's poems about falling out of love, there's poems about falling in love. And the other day, I got a message from my first boyfriend who apparently downloaded the book and was like, I'm so honored that you wrote this poem about me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm going to just die. And I was really hoping he wouldn't know about it. And like, he was like, I saw it on LinkedIn. And I was like, LinkedIn. Oh,
I
God.
never thought of that.
Why did is anyone on LinkedIn? I thought no one was there, so it was really very funny.
Oh, it's
So
hilarious.
it was very funny. Yeah, so you just don't know. And then I got a text from someone and they said, I'm in a yoga class in Kerry and the woman has just read your poem at the beginning of the yoga class. I
Oh,
went up to her afterwards and said, how do you know Nadia? And I'm just like, these books, I don't know what's going on. It's just
isn't
this
that wonderful? I think when somebody you don't know reads your book, it's like
such
that's
a lovely thing.
yeah, it's just like never ceases to amaze me that there's people out there who I don't know who are reading the book. So
And
wonderful.
yeah, and I think you two know this more than I do as well, is that it's like almost like being a parent. Like, yes, you did create this, but now it has to go on and have its own life.
Yeah.
Like now it's doing its own thing and it's having its own life. Um and one of the things that was really lovely about this book, I suppose, too, is that I met a lovely person and I got in a new relationship. And so there's some poems in there about falling in love that are
Oh,
really new. And then
yeah.
he ended up editing the book for me. And then he'd be like, how long ago did you write this poem? And I'm
You're going, ooh.
years ago. No, I'd just be like, like two
Oh,
weeks ago, So anyway, so what was lovely about it was coming out on Valentine's Day, and I got to have the launch at Power
yes.
and it was a magical day.
Yeah.
It was just so wonderful. And I had friends of mine who read poems. So they got up there and they read poems. And my best friend said to me, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I thought I'd leave." I just got so nervous all of a
Yeah.
sudden. But it was lovely to see other people up there on the stage reading my poems in Power Scores. And I just got really fortunate that I was selected to be part of this Maiden Wicklow campaign.
Yeah.
And that was the luckiest thing. I mean, that's the thing. It was just so like the right person. She's letting me down.
Don't worry, don't worry. But it's also
Sorry.
it
Yeah.
didn't happen. It is luck, but there's only you made the luck happen. So I want to talk to you a bit about let's hold you there. Hold that
Yeah.
thought, write that
Yeah.
down. Made
Yes.
in Wicklow campaign. How did that all
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
Because there's a lovely segue there over to Ruth, because Ruth's book was the last one was about the Camino and people you've met on the Camino.
Yeah.
And when Nadia mentions her new love being in the book and the old boyfriend, more to the point. Are there people, does that happen to you, Ruth? Do you get people who spot themselves in your books? Because at this stage you've got quite a lot of women going on in these three books.
Yes, I do. And before we start, I'm a big fan of Nadia's, and this is one of her pieces that I bought for myself at Christmas.
Oh, thank you.
And her artworks come with a poem as well. So it's an ideal, unique present to give somebody because they get a poem as well that's written by Nadia.
Gorgeous.
So, yeah, so the first book that came out the weekend break was about four women, and because that was my first one, I guess sometimes you put all your own life experience into your first book,
Totally do.
into your characters. So, like, I had a woman who was looking after a child with additional needs. I had a woman looking after a parent with dementia, and I had a woman who was childless at 40 and not in a relationship. But I did get messages from people to say, how did you write about the woman with the child with additional needs? And I had a child with additional needs and things like that. So people, it's funny, yeah, people will contact me and say they resonated with different characters. And like my aunt who's in her 80s said, I know all of these women, they're in my locality. But my Camino book, I think, will always be a special book because I had to walk the Camino to do that. And there's three real people that I met that I have my characters meet. And one of them was a Japanese girl who then this year, like as in 2025, when we went on family holiday to South Korea and Japan, she flew up from Osaka to meet me so I could give her the book. And it was nearly to the day that we had met on the Camino.
Oh,
And
that's lovely.
I only met her for one day. But I have had such feedback from that book. One gorgeous message I got sent was a daughter, her mum, and her grandmother. So the daughter was 40, the mother was about 60, and the grandmother was about 80. And they were walking the Camino on the same route as that I did and my characters did. And they had downloaded the book, and every night they read three chapters, only allowed themselves three chapters. And they would walk in the morning to discuss those three chapters before breakfast. So it motivated them to get out and start talking about the book. And then they sent me a picture of them in the square in Santiago. So that was the Camino book. So with this book, I said to Val Troy, we better get down to Belmullet for that book launch and then get out of town before people read it. Because I'm a dub. I'm set this book in Belmullet and the peninsula, the Gaeltacht there, and I'm writing about women from Mayo. And I'm not from Mayo. But I got a great message. One of the women, a great woman down there, Rita Scott, she runs Eris FM and she does podcasts. She has been listening to my book. So this is the first time I've had an audio book out at the same time as the paperback. So she lives down there and was born down there, and she absolutely loved it. And I only got that message today, and it was like just such a relief that somebody from there
Because it's
uh,
okay.
says it's okay because I mentioned real places like I always do. Location's so important. So, and then I invited all those businesses to the book launch. So there was people from the coffee shop, there was people from Kalosh to Ishka, which is the Gael talk down there. There was people from the local hotel because I mentioned one of the receptionists. When I was down doing my research in Belmullet, I was talking to the receptionist, and then I said to her, "This book jumps back to 1995 in some passages," and I said around Leaving Cert 1995, and she said, "Oh, I did my Leaving Cert in 1995." So I was asking her like where people went drinking after their exams and things like that. But also then I thought, oh well, then she's in the same class as my characters. So when my characters walk into her hotel, which is there now, the Broadhaven Bay, for this funeral reception, I have Lorraine, the real receptionist, having a conversation with Fern, my imaginary character, because they would have been in secondary school together if Fern was real. So, of course, I rang her to tell her this, and she was so excited. She booked the night off work, and herself and her husband and her family came to the launch. So, I love bringing real people into the book as well. And also, the other link with this is that there's a poem instead of the dedication, there's a poem.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um,
Yeah.
and that is a woman who came to my workshop when I was down at the Focal Coastal Writers Festival. I ran a workshop, my first ever workshop. And she came to it, and she's a photographer. She takes landscape photography and then she writes a poem about it. I had read just like months later, after I handed in the book, I was looking on the website for the art center and I just saw these 4 lines of poetry and I just went, oh my God, that explains the atmosphere in my book. So I contacted them and to see, it could have been a dead poet for all I knew. And they said, no, that's Orla, you know her, she did your workshop. So I asked her, would she like to write a poem for it? And so she was over the moon and I was over the moon because that's another link. And her description is excellent for the kind of wild and barrenness of it. So I can't even remember what you asked me, Vanessa, but
All
does
right.
that
It's about
answer it?
people who recognize themselves in books. So no, we've got
Yes.
that's brilliant. There's loads of them there. No, it's fantastic. And you went down there to research it. Why did you pick Belmullet?
I ended up there because my son went to Gaeltacht there. So it was actually just when we were coming out of uh, the pandemic. So Tim, we were looking around for Gaeltacht and Kalosh to Ishka. Ishka is Irish for water. So they learn Irish through water sports and he can never sit still. So I thought that's better for him. And when I was Googling the area, I thought, oh, this looks amazing. And we had just come out of our 10-kilometer zone or whatever it was, right? We were allowed holiday in Ireland, but I don't think we could leave the country yet. So because I live in Dublin, even though I live near the sea, I just thought, oh, I don't want to go to a city. So we booked for a week's holidays the month before he went to Gaeltacht down there. And we actually booked halfway down the peninsula, which is the Gaeltacht area, and a cottage, like a real old Irish cottage that you have to light the fire, even if it's 20 degrees outside. And there was still things weren't open. So we just walked and walked up and down that peninsula. And it was after being in lockdown, it was just, I think it had more of an effect on me being out in all this space and wildness. So my book opens with 3 women in Dublin, one in Dublin, one in London, one in New York, leading busy lives. So it was to take them out of those capital city busy lives and bring them way back somewhere, not really out of their comfort zone because they grew up there till they were 18. But they left after 18, as most people do if they want to go to college. So these 3 women hadn't been back under the one roof in 30 years, but still consider themselves best friends. So it was a
Oh,
perfect environment. Yeah.
load the story there. No, it's fantastic. I'm going to ask you both about your creative process in a minute. I just want to go back to Nadia and just get back where we left off there in terms of the publication journey because I want to cover that too. So, tell us how you ended up in Imphouse Court and the Made in Wicklow. How did that kick off?
Um, well, what happened was actually it's kind of related to what Ruth was just saying, to be honest. And one of the reasons I think I love Ruth's book so much is because she really nails female friendship, the good, the bad, the ugly, and so I have a friend who's in a decision-making position, I suppose you would say, in the arts. And it was the end of summer, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to finish a poetry anthology." And she said, "Oh, like the last one, is it similar?" And I said, I think I'm going to do the same kind of thing." And she said, "Well, could you be ready for Valentine's Day?" And this was back in August. And I said, "Why?" And you need a present? Like what's the deal? She said, "Well, would you like to launch your book in Powerscourt?"
Oh.
And I said, yeah, no, it'll be ready, like 100% ready. Like there's no doubt. Like if I have to crawl over glass, it'll be ready. Because I was like, what a better place than Valentine's Day in
Yes,
Powerscourt.
fabulous.
So she said, "Well, get busy then, get it done." And literally then it just was a matter of working backwards. Okay, well then that has to be here at this point, and this has to be here at this point, and this has to be there at that point, and that point. And I mean, the thing about poetry, unless you're an old dead white man, your chances of getting a book published through a traditional publisher with poetry, I mean, literally everyone says no poetry. I mean, it's just like, don't even annoy us.
Yeah, there's only about 4 or 5 poetry presses
There's
that you
so
got. Yeah.
few. And I actually had the first one with Place in Kerry. And
Mm.
the publisher said to me, "You know what?" He said, "I think you should add your artwork to this. And I think you should do it yourself." And I thought, it took me so long to find you, and now you're telling me what? Like I was really
Yeah.
annoyed. And he's like, because I mean, I've also written a novel, and
Mm.
so I've got that kind of trying to get that out into the world now. And I do feel it is different. Like everybody's got different choices to make, but I would no more self-publish a novel. I'll probably end up doing it in 3 years. But at the moment, like I would love to just continue that journey to try and get, the traditional press like you both have done, to do it that way. But for poetry, it was another,
Very different.
it's
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah. I know, and I think an enormous number of poets self-publish chapbooks, or they publish small,
Yeah.
because of the way the poetry world works.
And it
Absolutely.
was interesting too that he was a poet and a publisher, and he said to me, "Your artwork will set it apart."
Mm.
And I was like, "Do you think like a couple of, sketches or whatever?" And he was like, "No, no, I'd full on do it." And
Mm.
then I had a friend who was a graphic designer, and so she said, "Give me the artwork and give me the poems, and I'll do it for you." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." So when it came back, I was like, "Whoa, that's a lot."
Great. That was great. And
You
then
know,
how did you decide about getting printed and stuff? Did you get it printed in Ireland or?
I did actually, and
Mm.
I'm not. I got it printed in Drogheda of all places, but there's a place in Drogheda called Anglo Printers, and they have it's a massive, huge, old school print shop. They have
Mm.
massive machines, and they have a digital massive printer. And so their pricing at Anglo Printers, tell them Nadia sent you.
Yeah.
It's so phenomenally good. I mean,
Mm.
it was cheaper than sending off to China and having it shipped to me. And there is a part of me, and to my own detriment, I'm always trying to like support small businesses, or
Mm.
to do something locally, or to not go to that massive
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
So it has worked so well for me. So this is the second book I've done with them, and they couldn't be lovelier, and very trustworthy, very on time, all that stuff. But you have to, I think the relationship with the graphic designer for me was so important as well. And on the second book, she was pregnant on the second book, and we thought we had loads of time. And unfortunately, she went into emergency labor at 29 weeks, and she was in the very final stages of finishing the book.
Mm.
And I mean, you talk about a nightmare. I mean,
Oh, goodness.
I'm going to be in Powerscourt for a book launch with no books. Like, this is a nightmare. And so I was like, okay, I've got to find someone else. And da, da, da. And she literally, like, she rang me the next day and she said, you know, as soon as they let me out of this bed, I'm going to finish that book. And I was like, please don't finish it. Please don't do anything. But
Yeah.
she ended up a week later. I had the book completely finished. She
Oh,
just
wow.
funneled her
Yeah.
energy when her baby was in NICU, and
Well, I was going to say yeah.
what
Yeah.
what a nightmare. But again, a good friend, and female friendship. I mean, just she was like, under no circumstances. She's like, I was in labor going, I have to finish Nadia's book. I was like, oh my God. So it has been a labor of love, like literally.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it's a fantastic story to associate it to with the book
Yeah.
that was launched on Valentine's Day. I mean, that's just, yeah, it's sort of
Oh, it was magical. And the
lovely.
day was so gorgeous. Like the sky was blue and there was sun,
Was,
and we'd
yeah.
had this like 57 days of rain or something. And then all of a sudden on this day, and so all these photographs, people were like, did you Photoshop them? And I was like, no, there actually was sun. Like there was actually a blue sky. Like people were like, how'd you do that? And I was like, no, I didn't do anything. Like that actually happened, you know? So
That's brilliant.
yeah, yeah, but it was friendship really that led to me being in there. It was somebody, a good friend who said, "Look, you pull that together and I'll get you in there." So it was beautiful, really. It really was very special.
Well, it's fantastic. And you've got great media on it too, because you got picked up by the
I
Liverpool
know.
Times and stuff, didn't you?
Shameless.
What other bits have you done?
You know, I've been my partner, he was a CEO of a startup tech company, and so he said, "Hey, you know, you should really think about doing little videos. You're really good at that kind of thing." I was like, oh, I don't think so. Anyway, he said, we'll see what'll happen. So from the 1st of February, I decided to put out a video or a photo every day, right? And I know Ruth is a queen at this, so I'm talking to the converted here. Queen, no one better than Ruth. So I decided to follow my analytics, and I have had 147,000 views since the 1st of February.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It's
Isn't
mad,
it?
isn't it? So now I'm actually getting paid. I think they paid
Fabulous.
me, I think I got 11 euros for 140,000 views.
That's
But it's
fantastic.
so hilarious that like it's now turned into like a competitive thing with me where I'm like,
We can see,
ooh.
yeah, you can see the reason for it now. And is that through YouTube? Is it that you're doing on YouTube or your
No, I
Instagram
haven't even
or?
gotten to YouTube yet. I haven't gotten to YouTube or TikTok. It's Facebook and Instagram, believe
Mm,
it or not.
yeah.
So to get those kinds of numbers, it was just consistency. And um, I think it's just the key is
Yeah, it
consistency.
is consistency. I saw something, actually saw a post today saying somebody was saying bad news to you authors, but what was it, 5 posts? Well, she was doing 5 posts a day for like X, and she said she had the graph to show the
I
growth.
just do one. I'm not
I
doing
think one is, I
five.
don't know what she was doing with 5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
five is just too much. But you can see like what videos get what and different things. And to be fair, some of it's mental. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like I was the MC of the parade for St. Patrick's Day, and I did a little video of these Vikings fighting, and it got 10,000 views in one day.
that's what everybody wants on St. Patrick's Day. Vikings fighting. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, but it just shows you, doesn't it? I think it's about having that angle and having a think about it and what you're going to do and having a little bit of strategy behind it so that you know what type of thing you're going to post and the fact that you made the decision I'm going to post every day and over this period of time. So that's fantastic. Well done, you.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is it's just the consistency and literally like Ruth, honestly, I'm a huge fan of Ruth. I mean, Ruth is amazing. I'm like, are there more than one Ruths? Because she was just there and now she's there and that kind of thing. So I mean, I do feel that for to a certain degree, you cannot separate yourself from your work because
Yeah.
people do want to know you and they want to know what you're up to and they want to see what's going on. And that concept of show your work. I mean, the last 3 videos I've made are me in my pajamas, and I literally say, I'm going to read you a poem, but I'm still in my pajamas and I haven't brushed my hair yet. And people will be like, "Oh, I loved those pajamas." I mean, it's just so weird. Like I did it because I was out of time and I was like, oh my God, I should put on makeup and I should get dressed. And I was like, ah, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to do it in my
Yeah.
pajamas. So now it's turned into a thing. It's poetry in your pajamas.
That's so cool.
You know, it's just easier.
Go for it. Well, it is.
You know? So, I mean, I think that's the thing I would say is just make it work for you. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
don't go I wouldn't get in the habit of doing things that make you literally sick or uncomfortable because you're going to have to keep doing it.
Yeah, and also
So
take 2 hours. People are always asking you for 30-second videos that take 2 hours because yeah, it's so that's poetry in part pajamas is perfect because you can just sit down and just do it and it's
yeah,
part the rawness of it is part
and
of
it's sustainable.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So oh that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, that's great. And did you voice your own audio? You did an audiobook too
Yeah, but I
for it.
did hire a professional. Like I went into a studio. So I would
Mm,
say like me editing that audiobook would never have happened. Like I
yeah,
wouldn't have. But I have had experience working in radio and voiceover.
exactly.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Though I
Yeah.
have to tell you, when I hear it, I do cringe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because you
Uh,
don't sound the same in your
uh,
head as you do, yeah, when you listen to yourself back and talk to me about, yeah, absolutely get that. And I also have somebody who's looking for an audiobook producer, so you can send me the details
yes,
of that
yes, yes. It
afterwards.
was in Gorey. I did it in Wexford because I'm
Yeah,
trying to get
brilliant.
Gorey. But I mean, the price was a Gorey price versus a Dublin price. So
Yeah, it's anybody at the moment we need for this thing, this other project, something completely different. So
yeah.
wonderful. That's really, really interesting. That's fascinating. It's great to hear um about how the promotion works. So Ruth, you do a lot of promotion as well, don't you, for your books? Um,
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of stopped now. I mean, once your book comes out, you have a 2 week window. And like Nadia was saying, I personally love that going around the country. Now, it worked this time because we were going to do a launch in Belmullet the week after the Dublin one. So then I drove to Galway, Cork, Waterford, crashed in Wexford for a couple of days to work on the next book, and then back did Wexford and Gorey. So that'll all taper off. But it was actually Maria McHale said, like when I first started, and I thought she was nuts, she had said that you need to be engaging in social media about a year before your book comes out. Like without mentioning your book. And I thought like she was crazy, but actually, well, we all know Maria is not crazy and she's very wise. But a perfect example of that was that, like, about 8 or 9, probably 9 months before my Camino book came out, I joined all these Camino groups on Facebook because I needed the information for my Camino. And then I could tap into other people's journeys. And then when I came back, I was the one giving the advice. Then I became like top contributor on all these different Camino sites. So that meant that when it came to my pre-order code coming out months and months later, I contacted the admins of the groups. So I didn't want to break any rules
mm,
and told them that I was writing one of the only novels set on the Camino because there's only two others on Amazon from donkeys years ago. Carmel Harrington's bringing one out next year. But anyway, so mine was only the third novel. So when I contacted them, then they look up and they go, well, yeah, she's a top contributor. She's been on this site for over 9 months. And then they pretty much advertised the book for me then. Do you know what I mean? Like they allowed me to put posts up when it came out. And like I'd say to people, like you have to just do what's kind of comfortable. Like if your thing is gardening or, roses, let's say, well, then start joining Facebook groups, horticultural things, blah, 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 comment on stuff. And then, of course, 9 months later, you can mention that you have a novel or a poetry book coming out or whatever. And this year, what I did differently was I put a lot of posts into the pre-order because you get a certain amount. I think you get your most PR with a debut. A debut is always a nice, shiny, bright thing, and people want to talk to you. And then the PR kind of trickles off. So most of the PR for this book I would have done myself. So I concentrated this year on pre-orders, which I didn't do on the other two books. And then I think that definitely paid off. And I contacted all these places in the West. My book was on the Wild Atlantic Way site. It was on Mayo Northwest. And I got myself onto podcasts and things like that. So I did more prep. Now, but really only like you can't annoy people, people I'm sure they're sick of looking at me now, which is why I'll go back into my cave. But from the time you get a pre-order code, I just feel like that's like somebody giving you your book and then you decide, okay, I'm just going to lock it in this drawer and not tell anyone about it. You can't do that. It's, you've done the work. An agent thinks it's good. A publisher has published it. So you have to tell people about it. So I remember somebody saying to me, people on podcasts and other content creators, they're all looking for content. And if you rock up and ask them, can you send them a book? That's content. So you're kind of helping them out. So you kind of have to just brave it out sometimes. But I also have my travel blog and that's really handy, and it just gets back to, I know you put it in your Tuesday tips today, about like I've seen so many people start Substacks and they're like, oh, I'm doing a weekly Substack and blah blah
100%.
blah, and it
It fizzles.
dies.
Yeah.
It dies. And or else they start off by asking people to pay €5 to hear from me. And I'm just like, oh my
Well,
God. No, no,
why
no.
would you? Yeah.
What? Yeah, please don't do that.
Mm.
But so I knew I could write a travel blog once a month. So it comes out the last Friday of the month. And I can tell you that Friday flies around, but it
Mm.
has to go out every Friday. And I was really busy in the run up to the book coming out. So I asked fellow inker, Mary Noonan, could I use one of her articles? She wrote an article for The Independent about traveling around Northwest Mayo, and she was delighted, and I was delighted. That's the only one that I haven't written myself in over 3 years. But like, it's a slowly growing mailing list. I think it's at like just under 200 now, but that gives you email addresses because we've all seen how Twitter has gone, and you just don't know what's going to blow up in social media. So having a website with a blog, if that's your thing, there are so many ways to become a published writer, and somebody might decide. I don't want to do what Ruth's doing. I don't want to be in the paper. I don't even need my book on a shelf. That's grand. There's ebook only. You can write with a pen name. You can have short stories or articles and papers. I think you need to decide what kind of writer you want to be, or like you were saying today, what does success look like to you? And then create boundaries for yourself. So there's certain things, like especially with the first book, I sat down and I wrote down a list of what I wouldn't talk about in interviews. Should I get them? Or, how do you want, how much do you want to give away about yourself? That's all preparation work well before your books come out.
Yeah, yeah, and really, really important stuff to think about too. So I think those boundaries are really important because you tend to, especially if you go in and you're a deer in the headlights in an interview, you can end up anywhere. And so it's keeping an eye on what you're saying, making sure you repeat the book title, those types of things. But I think having a list of what you don't want to cover is really, really important. I'm going to get to your creative process in a minute, but I'm just
Mhm.
going to ask Nadia. Nadia, you clearly have a very busy job, and a very stressful one. So how do you fit in? You mentioned there scribbling bits down as you think of them. How do you fit in that creative time and then the novel writing time too? Because there's a lot going on there.
Well, first of all, I think the beauty, I heard someone say recently, and I loved it, that menopause is like being a child pre-puberty. And I thought that's brilliant because it's so true. Because I'm 57 now, and I have to say, I rarely do shit I don't want to do. Like I rarely,
Well, like,
rarely.
yeah.
I mean, there is some things, obviously revenue and aging parents, and I have an autistic 17-year-old, but for the most part, I've just stopped not doing things I don't want to do. I do really try, and I know this sounds silly, but I go to dance class 3 times a week, so I
Ooh,
try to stay fit,
yeah,
and I try to stay fit. I'm pretty what the word be? I suppose I'm fortunate in that I can be very focused and I can be very disciplined. But I'm also like I have to put myself to bed now. I feel like I'm a sophisticated houseplant. Like I need water, I need sunlight, I need certain things. And I really am very good at kind of saying, okay, I won't do well with that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. Recognizing what your limitations are, but also what you're good at as well. Yeah,
yeah, and just kind of being like, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay an accountant or go to jail. These are the
yes,
things I'm going to have to
yeah,
do. And then these are the not things. And,
yeah,
throw the laundry on, walk the dog, do the so for me, I, I mean, and this kind of what the novel is about in a way, I suppose, is that like I had this film and television career and I thought I was going to be a director and I thought I was going to do certain things. And then I had this autistic child at 3, he was 3, and I was like, I was this person. He wouldn't talk to anybody but me. And so I was like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And so I had to totally change my whole identity and make it, that I'm available and that I'm
yeah,
around. And so that works really well for writing. It really does. It suits very, very well, you
yeah,
know. So I think everyone has to look at their family situation and their personality and their weaknesses. And like I can almost tell when I'm not doing well by the high levels of chocolate I am consuming. Like I can literally be like I got in my car the other day and there was a packet of minstrels in the door of the car, like in there. And I was like, oh, look, Nadia yesterday left me chocolate for today. She's so considerate. And then I was like, you're stashing stuff. You're like an alcoholic. Like you have to come down. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, intervention, So I mean, I think we just have to really know ourselves.
Yeah.
And I will say this, and this is a very difficult thing to say, but I started going to therapy probably about 5 years ago because I have a very problematic family of origin and I have cut off some relationships. So I would say that actually ending some very difficult relationships has freed me up in terms of esteem, in terms of energy, in terms of just mental health and well-being. So I think really getting to a place where you're like, okay, this is important, this is not
Yeah.
important, this
Yeah.
hurts, this doesn't hurt, like getting really clear. I would say
Yeah.
I'm extremely clear.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. And the fact that you can really focus as well, I think is
Oh,
a big part of that, is that when you do choose to focus, you can be, I would imagine, be very
well,
productive.
if you don't have peace of mind,
Mhm. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, people will say, oh, writing is therapy. And I'll be like, no, it's not. Therapy is therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're writing for therapy, should we pay you to read it? I don't know about that. You know, go for therapy and then write,
Yeah.
like it does clear you, it does free you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And yeah, and juggling all those bits and pieces as well. It's you've got it going on now. I think it's recognizing what your strengths and your weaknesses. That's just incredibly important, isn't it? Yeah,
It,
definitely.
I mean, it's so important. And if you're bitter that, you've got an aging parent or you've got a sick child or your partner or whatever, or your health or whatever's going on, I mean, it's useless.
Yeah.
So it's like, um, let's focus on what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, yeah. I've got my 21-year-old now is also on the spectrum, and we spent an awful lot of time doing therapy when he was little, and he's now a fully functioning human and
So
like
fabulous.
not a bother. Like he's still the odd characteristic where you just have to give him
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
but yeah, the difference is just unbelievable. Yeah, so
And I
it really
actually
pays
do,
off.
I do once a month, I do a group with an art group with an art journaling group with mothers of small autistic children. And they'll come in and they'll sometimes just cry for 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll just
yeah,
be passing tissues and donuts, like, here, come on, you're okay. Here's coffee. You're all right.
yeah. Well, that's
You don't
space.
have
You're
to
giving
know
them
it.
space.
Yeah, and
Really
it's once a
important.
month. And I just feel for them because I can just remember,
Yeah, what it was like. Yeah.
those days. He's never going to know how to tie his shoes. Yeah, well, that's fine. There's Velcro. Like, don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, I just really think it's all fuel, it's all ammunition, it's all, you
It
just
is.
make it
It
work.
is. It is.
It's
It
like
is.
Ruth said about her book when people are like, oh, how did you know what it was like to write about a special needs child? Yeah, I know, because I've
Yeah.
lived it. You know what I
You
mean?
lived it. Yeah. Very strong own voices there. Yeah. And so Ruth, your creative process, let's take us through what your day looks like. Because you're busy doing film extra stuff too, aren't you? In between.
Yeah, but I'm kind of lucky with that. Like it's freelance, so if I have to do edits or something like that, I can just say no to work. And so, this week I'm chaperoning, next week I'm chaperoning twice, and it's all kind of interconnected because, like I worked on the Walsh sisters, so I'm looking at Marion Keys's book being turned, the kind of the
Mm.
dream, seeing your book on stage or whatever on TV. Um, but yeah, like the funny thing with me is that like I was never competitive as a child or a teenager or even a 20-year-old, like no interest in being competitive in sports or anything. And I'm so since I started writing, I'm so competitive with myself.
Yeah.
So if at the moment I'm reading my printout of the next book, and it's like I'm saying, okay, I'll do 9 chapters a day, but of course, I know I'll feel fantastic if I actually push it and do maybe 12 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I know, like a lot of people say, writing's so solitary and all that, but I actually love that about it because it's probably the control freak in me because I can do when I want and how much I want. But like on a day-to-day basis, I try to get up and walk straight outside out the door before I even I'm barely dressed. Like before my brain can register it and go for a walk, and then I usually have an idea of what needs to be done writing wise. And if I'm not working, if I am working, there's no way I just wouldn't have the brain space to come back and do some writing. But it's usually on my walks that I get my ideas anyway. So, and in fact, the start of this book, which opens with the three women getting a WhatsApp message, I was on a walk and I had just joined a new book club. It's a worldwide book club. And I started walking and I didn't realize there was a WhatsApp group attached to it. So my phone started bing, 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 like really annoying me. And I took it out to turn off the notifications. And I went, oh, there's a woman from South Africa here. There's a woman from New Zealand here. And then I thought, wow, that's three women in different parts of the world getting this message at the exact same time. And I just went,
Ooh, that's a
it's a
story.
great opening.
Yeah.
So that's literally how I got the idea for this book. And then I turned off the notifications and then I was gone, okay, so um
What's next? Yeah.
as I know from my writing ink training, these three women have to look completely different. So I just thought, okay, well, if one's in Dublin, I'll have her with long red hair and maybe she's walking her dog on the beach. And then so I've probably said this 100 times before, but before I write anything, I usually pick a celebrity that they look like that my character in my head, and I'll do a bio for them, and then I'll kind of like do it on a board. So like I have here,
Cool. That's brilliant.
uh,
Lovely storyboard. Yeah.
yeah. So she's Farron.
Oh, we're losing your sound when when you're in just put the board down.
Sorry.
Sorry. There you go.
Yeah. So Fern in my story is a theatre actress in the Globe, Shakespeare's Globe in London. So Helena Bonham Carter obviously fits that
Mm.
perfectly. And my red-headed woman on the beach is Juliana Moore. And then Chloe, this is so funny. I said this at the launch. Like I've used two names for like I have a Nora and a Chloe, right? Two women from our group. And Chloe is the nicest lady, and she's so quiet, and she runs a library in Nova Scotia. And my Chloe is completely the opposite. She is so wicked, so bold. And I have her as Annette Benning with short, spiky hair because her personality is spiky. So so I print out, like literally print out their picture from Google Images and write that down. And then they were coming back for a funeral. So the guy who's dead, and I had to check with the undertaker to make sure there was nobody called Danny O'Connor, age 49 in Belmullet, because I was killing him.
Yeah.
So he's the golden boy. So in my head, he was Paul Mescal in 1995, and he's Aidan Quinn now. So and I also have a Kevin who's Keanu Reeves. And who else? Oh yeah, Mark Ruffalo. I had when people read Pavel, the Polish gardener, I had Mark Ruffalo. So for about 6 months, these images have been on the wall. My husband's going in, looking at Mark Ruffalo, Paul Mescal, Keanu, and going, "This is the," and I'm like, "Yeah, they have to stay there." This is what I'm calling research, deep dive into Mark Ruffalo's images. So once I have them in my head, then I start writing them. But not until I've done that. And things like their clothes size, their shoe size, do they live in a terraced house? So one has a cat called Slinky, one has a golden retriever called Penny. And all of that gets ironed out, whether they're vegetarian or not, because even their coffee order, do you know what I mean? Someone running in, hassled ordering a double espresso is different to someone having a chai latte. Do you know what I mean? So I do that with anything that I'm writing. That's how I start. And then I usually fly to 30,000 words, like fly. And probably a lot of it info dumping and environment. And then I usually go, okay, does this, can I sustain this for 80,000? So I don't stop, I don't edit. And when I get to 30, I just then kind of structure it.
Yeah.
But
Work
then
out what-
I've
Yeah.
used the structure of time with all my books. So the weekend break is over like 3 days. And then a week from it, like that's obviously a week in the Camino. So it's like each day they have to move. these women are in Belmullet for like a wake, a funeral, a memorial service. So even though I don't plot everything completely, I have this scaffolding of time, and it's usually short. I haven't written anything past 10 days yet. And then I always have an epilogue because I want to know where they are 6 months or a year later. So
Yeah.
that's roughly how I
Great.
structure my books.
Tons of information there. Now, guys, we're going to give you some time for questions, quick ones. But was who was asking? Was it Siobhan or was it Dee? Asking if Nadia will read a poem. Pajamas are optional.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll
let's just
run and change. I'll run and change.
so if you can read a
Okay.
poem, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Well, I'll do a shorty.
None so far. None so
Do
far.
your favorite one.
Well, oh, geez, I don't. I did the I Ching thing where I just opened it. Okay, so I just opened it.
Oh, perfect.
This is
Perfect. Yeah.
what it looks
Beautiful.
like. You can kind of see that marbled paper there. It's called Ancestral Downpour. After the storm, the heavy rain, the river's mouth swells, full and furious through the arches of the bridge, like a woman grieving, purging her soul, weeping from a hidden vault of anguish, emptying the flood of the atrocities she didn't commit. It's a little heavy.
Oh,
Good choice. No, but yeah,
very
strong
good.
stuff, powerful stuff. It's great. Yeah, and as I said, the illustrations are fabulous. Going all the way
Yeah.
through it. Maria, have you got any questions in there?
One here from Paula, which says the sound didn't work for a while. Ruth hasn't talked. She hasn't talked about it yet. Ruth, you travel around promoting your book a lot. Who organizes for you? Do you contact the bookshops yourself, or does your agent or publisher do it? We know that.
Okay, so the first thing to say is agents don't organize these things, and it's very right from the get-go. I think it's very you need to kind of understand exactly what an agent does for you and what a publisher does for you. I heard somebody I remember at a meeting who had dropped their agent because they didn't organize enough PR for them in Ireland. And you're like,
Oh
oh
my
my God,
God.
that is absolutely not their
Not their
job.
job.
So to answer your question, Easons in Ireland like to know in advance when you're coming in. They usually want 2 weeks notice, and the publisher, they won't speak to me anyway. So the publisher does that. So I gave Poolbeg a list of all the Easons shops I was going to be. Bookstation are just delighted when you come in. And I have to say, I adore Bookstation. And I was delighted to be number 2 in all the bookstations in the country because they don't do a per shop like Eason's do. They just do like the second best selling book that week or whatever. So they're just delighted when you come in. And Dubray, you don't have to contact them. Now, if it's not a big city, so like when I was going to Gorey, I rang them in advance. And when I was going to Waterford, I rang them in advance. But like Cork and Galway, I just walked in. But yeah, the Eason's shops there, the reason they want to know is that I don't rock in and they have no copies of my book. And then it's embarrassing for me. And then someone has to go to the stock room. So if they know I'm coming in, then they'll have them near the till for me to sign. And it's not an organized come meet the author thing. I go in, announce who I am, and then they have my books. I sign them. They take pictures for their website. I take pictures for mine. You're in and out in about 10, 15 minutes. And it suits both because they have something for their site and I have something for mine. But I absolutely love, from my point of view, I'm walking in there and I'm meeting the booksellers who are going to recommend my book. So I always say to them, let me tell you about this. 3 women, blah, 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 blah. And I give them like 4 or 5 lines. And then because they're going to recommend it if someone says, I'm looking for a book for my holidays or for Mother's Day, which actually is really handy for me. So and I said to all of them, ideal for Mother's Day, no matter how old your mother is. So I go in, you are a salesperson. Maria will tell you when you type the end on your book, you have to go from your creator brain to then to your reader brain, right? But it's still a business brain. So when you go back, do your first draft, get all that creative stuff out, but then you go back over it like a reader, and then you have to switch on. When you hand that book in, you need to turn on your business one. So, and it's authentic. Like I want to tell them about it. They want to know about it. They're getting hundreds of books in every week. And I knew, like, Liz Nugent, when she said she was bringing out a book after 2 years, my hands raced to the Eason's website to see was it the same week as me, and I was so relieved it wasn't, because I knew, and it's exactly what happened. The shelves will be swept, and her book will be up, and that's exactly what happened. So you only get a short window. So and booksellers are delighted when authors come in, especially if it's outside big cities, and they do remember you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pavla, that's how I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pablo, if your publisher has a publicist attached to them or to you, then the publicist will help you with that. Or you can do it yourself and just let the bookshops know. But it absolutely isn't an agent's job yet. Couldn't agree more. God, so many ideas about what people think agents do, and they just don't. So, any more questions out there?
There haven't been many, no. But
We've only got 3 minutes to go. So
yeah.
yeah.
All hail the Book of Ruth. I actually really appreciate hearing both of you, because you've actually, I say this a lot, but it's very easy to be in this group and do your own thing, which a lot of authors do. But to be teachable, as you know, I think Vanessa and I would say we're teachable, because being teachable as an author or as a writer is really valuable, because you are actually open to someone else's perspective, even if at first it makes you like drop dead at the thought of it. But you know, if you let your mind worry about it afterwards and just be open to the possibility of how things could work out for you, you know, what Ruth has said and what Nadia has done, they've both basically been told something, not loved the idea, but went with it, for both of them in these two very different publishing journeys, and it worked out really well for them. So I think there's a message in that.
Yeah,
I think
brilliant.
one thing you've been trying to tell us as well that's really hit home for me on this project in the last since Valentine's Day is I have had unexpectedly outrageously generous things done for me, and I am shocked at how good and how well it has turned out. I mean, I am just like, you what? Like it's just so for those of us who are a little crippled by fear or a little nervous or a little insecure or anything like that, if you just step out and do your thing. And I love this definition that beautiful is being fully you. Like beautiful, your beautiful self is you being fully you. And I have to say that I have just kind of stepped out in faith on this and been floored by how good people have been to me. Just
Everything
unbelievable.
always works out.
Yeah, and it really is a mindset.
Yeah.
Like I'm open to a miracle. Like that sounds a bit trite, but it's
Oh,
honest to God true.
yeah.
And
That's the alternative.
and
It's a
people
bit
are and
nice.
people are maybe there's so much darkness in the world at the moment that authenticity, it just goes so far. So just being fully yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last question. Is there a piece of advice you decided you definitely would not follow? For both of you, I suppose.
No, I can't think of anything that I went against. No, I don't think so.
No one is having a really hard think there.
Do you know, I just want to get everything right, so I want to get the question right. But do you know, I think you kind of do. You have people like people really want to give you their opinion, and they kind of will tell you stuff, and you kind of go, uh-huh, oh yeah,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
do you know
Yeah.
what I say to myself? Write your own book.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
do love what Brene Brown said, which is if people are not in the arena with you, then they don't understand. And
Yes.
Mm.
and for that reason, I rarely tell people anything. Like I
Yeah.
just don't. I just
Yeah.
don't. I mean, as much as I might be in social media or stuff, anything that's personal or anything that's important to me, I don't want people's opinion on it. So I don't
Yeah.
really say much. And then when they do say something, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
oh,
That's what Ruth was
I
talking about
think
with boundaries, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
making you can be out there on social media and it can look like
yeah.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine told me this thing. It says, there we are then, and it spells twat.
there we are then. Yeah. I
That's
just
what
think
you
that's a
said.
good thing
Oh,
to
there
put in
we
the
are then.
comments. There we are then. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
code for, you know, twat alert.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
So
yeah.
true. And
All
I
good,
think
all
that is a
wrong.
misconception about social media if you're shy, that you have to be putting there is a lot of this crying. And I've always said from the very get-go, like, you will never find me. I mean, by the way, I would like to say I love dancing. I
Mm.
love laughing. you will never find me doing a funny dance on social media or whatever. It's just, you do not have to do all the trends on social
Yeah.
media. You can just,
Just because they're doing it on TikTok does not mean
yeah,
it's necessarily
Nadia
for you.
put it really well there. But if you just show up as yourself, there's
Mm.
no need then to be trying to think about what to say or do. And, if you're nerdy or niche, I actually think you do even better on social media if you just try and do your own thing and just share your own interests. And it works. So it is free. And the other thing that Ruth said, which is worth remembering for everyone, build your list because social media is very erratic and lots of people have had their accounts taken down. And, if you are working on a book and you can start building a little email list, that's your direct link to all your readers and fans. So it's worth starting early.
Yeah,
One thing I
absolutely.
just want to add in there, I did recently that I hadn't expected to go so well is getting an agent for speaking. So getting an agent for speaking has worked out pretty well for me because, a keynote, like I did a keynote for International Women's Day, and you'd be surprised what people are willing to pay for 40 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
biggie.
it can work to
Yeah,
its advantage. So, give it a go, give it some welly.
brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Excuse me, that's fantastic. So interesting.
Time is up. Thanks so much. It's
Mm.
great because you are, like, as we all are, including Vanessa, everyone is a writer here. And it's just great that, this could be any one of us. So I think that's what's really important to remember for everyone watching.
Yeah,
No,
and
I
if
think it's
anybody has any other questions, just keep dropping them in. And we'll have a look at them over the next couple of days, or if you need to DM us about anything, that's also okay, I'm sure.
And I have to
yeah,
say that I don't even remember how long ago it was, but we had lunch, Ruth, and you are so generous and kind and funny and witty, and we had the best time. And that's the beauty of this. There's some Val and Orla, and Orla was at my lunch, and Sam, Vanessa and Maria. There's so much support in this group, and it's so genuine. It's so beautiful. Anne Hamilton and I met in Edinburgh. I mean, it's a fabulous, fabulous group.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
Mm.
I agree. Yeah, it is definitely our tribe, and it's so important to have it. Yeah, sport is
Oh,
amazing.
lovely.
Yeah,
That's lovely to hear.
that's
So yeah,
lovely.
thanks a million. And I put the links at the beginning, and the chat is always under the video. If you're watching back and you've never noticed that, the chat transcription is there. So if there's any links that are ever put in, it's also readable and linkable. So the two books are linked in the chat if you want to get
Yeah,
them.
we might put them in. Might put them in under. I think they're under the description anyway, aren't they? In under the
Yeah, I
video
think they are.
description.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm going to be downloading this now and attempting. Well, actually, I'll try and upload it. I don't always put it in the right place.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So we'll make sure it goes in the right place this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's fantastic. Listen, wonderful. Lovely to hear from you. I love the contrast between you two because you both have a goal and you both have achieved what you want to achieve. And through completely different routes, completely different,
Mhm.
people. And yeah, but yeah, also finding companionship and connection in
Yeah.
the group as well, which is really
And
important.
that your path is the one that you take and it will
Mm.
work for you. And they're both very different paths, but they've worked out really well. So it's lovely to see that.
Yeah, marvelous, marvelous. Right, on that note, it is 8
Thanks a
o'clock.
million.
Past. Thank you so much, ladies. I am going to
Yeah,
shut this down, and then we will be able to. I'll download it and pop it into the group so you can watch it back, and
Absolutely.
everybody else who's missed it can watch it too. So thank you very much indeed.
You all. Thank you.
Lovely to
fantastic.
Bye.
have you.
Thank
Lovely to see
you.
everybody.
Bye, bye,
Take
bye.
care.
Bye. Now, have you stopped recording as well? Oh,
I have
well.
now. I have now. Oh, not